I wasn't looking for anything when I opened her notes app. Just the shopping list. That's all I needed. I stood in the checkout line at Hannigan's, 6 items deep in the express lane, when I realized I forgot the damn candles. I don't even remember her saying candles, but I've learned not to question what's on the list. She makes them with precision. If it's on there, she wants it. If I come home without it, she'll pretend it's fine, but she'll write it down again next week, and there'll be this pause, like a glitch in the software between us. So I checked the list. She didn't hide it. The Notes app was still open from earlier that morning. I'd watched her type into it as she sipped her coffee at the kitchen island, absent-mindedly dragging her fingers across the tile grout like she was bored even with her own life. The note was titled Grocery Plus Miscellaneous. And there it was. Razor, red wine, candles, lingerie, seamless, body oil. That was the list. 5 items. No milk, no paper towels, no bananas or trash bags or any of the other things we always need. Just those 5 things. I stared at it, letting each item settle in. Razor. Okay, sure. She'd mentioned she was out. Red wine. We were out of that too, but she hadn't said anything. Candles. Lingerie, seamless. Body oil. I looked up from the screen and caught the cashier watching me. My turn. I handed her the items I did have, then turned around and grabbed a pack of white tea candles from the end cap. They weren't scented, but they'd have to do. In the car, I kept thinking about the word seamless. She'd typed that with intention, not just lingerie. She specified the kind. That matters. When I got home, she was in the bathroom, door half shut, the sound of the shower running. I set the groceries on the counter and leaned against the sink for a second, listening to the waterfall. Then I said, I got everything except the lingerie. I didn't know the size. The water stopped. A pause. Then her voice, calm and casual, floated out. That wasn't for tonight. Yeah, just for myself. Another pause. I waited for more, for a smile, a joke, a reason. She didn't give one. She came out 10 minutes later in a robe, hair wrapped in a towel, and kissed my cheek. The kiss was dry. Her lips barely touched me. Thanks for running out, she said, and walked past me into the bedroom. I followed a few minutes later. She was already under the covers, scrolling through her phone, pajamas on, candles unlit on the windowsill. The bottle of wine untouched on the kitchen counter. I stood there, unsure if I should say anything. Then I climbed into bed beside her and faced the wall. That's how the night ended. No wine, no candles, no seamless anything. The next morning, I watched her move through the kitchen with the same rhythm she always had, quiet, mechanical, half absent. I poured her coffee. She said thank you. I kissed her head and tasted damp hair. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. She always used to say, I love you, before I left for work. She didn't that day. I almost didn't notice. But that's how these things start, right? You almost don't notice. It was Thursday. I remember that because Thursday is trash day, and I forgot to roll the bins out. I ran back after locking the door and nearly tripped on the sidewalk. She didn't wave from the window like she used to. That night, I found the razor still in the bag under the sink. The body oil was unopened on the vanity. She was asleep by 9:30, one arm slung over her stomach like a child. None of it made sense. The next day, I checked the list again. The note had changed. Lingerie, lace, replaced seamless. Everything else was the same. This time I didn't ask. Instead, I waited. Saturday night, she said she was meeting her coworker Jessa for drinks. Just a girl thing, she said, shrugging on her coat. You can have the TV to yourself. Don't wait up. I smiled. I nodded. She smelled like citrus and something warmer, like sandalwood. Not the kind of perfume she usually wore. Her earrings caught the light, little gold hoops I hadn't seen before. When she left, I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time. Eventually, I picked up her iPad. It was charging in the living room. She rarely used it, but it was synced to her phone. Same Apple ID. I didn't find what I expected. Not photos. Not messages. Not texts. Just a calendar event for next Friday. 7:30 p.m. Tasting room. Table for two. Under M. The rest of the week passed like a slow leak. She was polite. Present. Tired, she said. Work stress. Hormones. I'm just off lately, she murmured as we lay in bed, her back to me. I knew better than to push. But the day before the tasting room reservation, I called the number listed. Hello. You've reached Hollow Pines Tasting Room. How can I help you? Hi, I said. I just wanted to confirm a reservation for tomorrow. Last name. Morgan. A pause. Typing. Yes. 2 guests. 7:30 p.m. Private booth. Special request. Booth with curtain. My throat closed up a little. Can I ask who made the reservation? Sure. Looks like. Kara Morgan. Not her name. Not even close. But I recognized the email used. It was her backup. The one she used for promo coupons and sweepstakes. The woman I married was taking someone she didn't want recognized, to a wine tasting behind a curtain under a fake name. And she had the audacity to tell me the lingerie was for herself. Next part? The night I followed her. You won't believe what I saw. I parked 2 blocks away. The Hollow Pines tasting room sat at the edge of downtown like it didn't want to be found, tucked between an antique bookstore and a candle boutique, the kind of place you'd miss if you weren't looking. I was looking. It was just after 7 when I got there. Enough time to find a spot by the side window, partially hidden by a row of potted olive trees and the condensation of early evening wine drinkers. From there, I waited. She arrived at 7:26. Not a minute late. She stepped out of a dark blue car I didn't recognize. Not ours. Not a rideshare either. No sticker. No license plate barcodes. Maybe a rental. Maybe his. Her coat was different, shorter, black leather with a belt cinched tight. Her walk was different too, like someone who expected to be seen. I watched her pause by the door, adjust her earring, and glance at her reflection in the glass. Then she went in. At 7:31, the man followed. Tall, brown coat, no wedding ring. He didn't touch her right away, but they smiled the same way. That smile people wear when they're already tangled under the table. I moved around the back, through the alley where the staff smoke on breaks. No cameras. No foot traffic. I waited by the kitchen delivery door. Then I knocked twice, like I belonged there. The kid who answered looked about 19, holding a tray of microgreens. I said, "Hey, I'm picking something up for Kara Morgan." She said she left her card. He blinked, then nodded, stepping aside. That's how easy it is. A lie and a name. That's all it takes. I slipped through the back and into the hallway. Dim lights. Chalkboard specials. Coats hanging on antique hooks. I kept my head down. The booth she requested was the last one on the right. Curtains drawn. Low light. Voices muffled. I stood outside it for 3 full minutes, pretending to check my phone. Inside, I heard her laugh. The soft one. The one she hadn't used around me in months. I turned and left. I didn't need to see more. I already knew. But I wasn't angry. Not yet. What I felt was stranger, something hollow and still. Like someone turned the volume down on my life. I drove home in silence. She got back at 11:42 p.m. I was pretending to sleep, but I heard her heels click softly across the hardwood, then stop by the bedroom door. She stood there for a moment, maybe watching me, maybe checking to see if I was awake. Then she turned and went to the bathroom. She slept with her back to me, the scent of sandalwood stronger now, like he'd touched her neck and it had clung. The next morning, I said nothing. Neither did she. That's how it went for days. Polite. Flat. Muted. Then came the second list. I found it Tuesday morning. Same notes app. Same folder. groceries plus miscellaneous, razor blades, cinnamon lube, sparkling water, black dress cleaned, hotel keycard, don't forget. I stared at it for longer than I should have. She was getting careless. Or maybe she thought I wouldn't look twice. Maybe she thought I believed her, the pajamas, the early bedtimes, the I'm just tired lullabies. But now it was turning into something else. A hotel keycard. That wasn't casual. That wasn't a slip. That was a plan. I didn't confront her. I copied the list. Then I waited. On Thursday, she left work early. Said she had a client dinner. Said it might run late. She even wore the black dress. I watched her pull out of the driveway at 5:11 p.m. Then I called in sick, took my car through the back roads, and followed the GPS to the Radcliffe Hotel just past the West Side Bridge. It was a corporate-looking building. Glass lobby. Valet who didn't look twice at her when she stepped out of the car. I watched her from the edge of the parking lot as she walked inside, that little clutch bag swinging like a pendulum. She didn't look back. At 6:02, she got in the elevator. I knew because I followed. A different elevator. I waited until the door closed, then took the next one, watching the floor numbers blink up to 7. I didn't go up. I waited in the lobby. At 7:10, the man walked in. Same one from the tasting room. This time he was dressed like he belonged at a tech convention, polo, blazer, clean shave. He walked past the desk like it wasn't his first time there. I followed at a distance, close enough to see the number he pressed. Floor 7. They were getting bold. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the car outside the hotel until nearly midnight, headlights off, engine cold. At some point, I realized I was still holding the grocery list in my hand, thumb pressed over the word keycard like I could erase it by touch. When I got home, she was already in bed. Again. Except this time, she'd washed her hair. Dried it too. Carefully curled, tucked under the pillow like it hadn't seen a stranger's hands hours ago. She didn't kiss me. Didn't ask how my day was. She just said, night, and rolled away. I laid there staring at the ceiling for what felt like years. And then I got up. I went to her coat, hanging neatly by the door. And inside the pocket, or right where I thought it'd be, was the hotel keycard. Still warm. Still real. Still proof. I held it under the kitchen light, the name Radcliffe etched in cursive across the front. Then I slid it into my wallet beside my driver's license. That was the night something changed in me. Not rage. Not sadness. Something quieter. A kind of resolve. Like I'd stepped off the edge of something and found there was no ground. Only air. In the fall. It came on a Sunday afternoon. I was doing dishes when my phone buzzed with a missed call. No name. Just a number. Area code local, but not familiar. And then the voicemail. I almost didn't play it. Almost. But I dried my hands, leaned on the counter, and tapped the icon. Her voice came through, low and quick, like she was whispering behind a closed door. Hey, I can't talk long, but I got the room for Friday. Same place, same setup. Let me know if you want to use the back entrance again. Last time felt risky, but good. I still can't believe we pulled it off. Anyway, call me later. I miss you. Then a soft laugh. The kind I hadn't heard in months. Then, click. I stood there in the silence that followed, the dish towel clenched in my fist, water dripping from the edge of the sink. She hadn't called me. That much was obvious. She called him. Only she didn't. She dialed my number. I replayed it once. Then again, looking for hesitation, for guilt, for anything that might suggest she'd slipped. But there was nothing. Just warmth. Excitement. Anticipation. She wasn't just seeing him. She was thriving in it. I didn't delete the voicemail. I didn't save it either. I left it there like a loaded gun on the coffee table. A silent threat. She came home that night with takeout Thai, my favorite. Said she felt bad I'd been working so much lately. Said we should have a lazy Sunday like we used to. I nodded. Smiled. even kissed her cheek. She didn't know. Not yet. We sat on the couch, her legs tucked under mine, a rerun playing on mute. She scrolled on her phone, occasionally showing me memes like we were still inside the same life. But I wasn't sitting next to her anymore. I was behind the curtain. I was in the hotel lobby. I was listening to her whisper to a man she missed more than me. That night, I waited until she fell asleep. Then I opened her phone. Same code as always. Her birthday. She never changed it. I didn't look for texts. I knew she was smarter than that. I looked for call logs. And there it was, the number that matched the voicemail. Logged twice. Once outgoing. Once missed. No contact name. Just digits. I copied it into my phone and stared at it. Then I opened my laptop. I used a tool I'd read about months ago, reverse lookup. Pulled the number through a few databases. And then it came up. Martin Hale. I didn't recognize the name. But the pieces started to shift. Click. LinkedIn. VP of Product Design at a tech firm in the city. Mid-30s. Smug smile. That blazer and polo look. The man from the tasting room. Her coworker. I stared at the profile photo, the curated success of it, the casual wealth, the clean lines. His eyes weren't kind. They were calculating. Her voice in the voicemail echoed in my head again. I still can't believe we pulled it off. I started to wonder what else they'd pulled off. That night, I didn't sleep. I scrolled through everything I could find on him. His company. The people they worked with. Photos tagged at events. I found one from 6 weeks ago, their company's Q3 retreat. Her hand on his shoulder. His hand at her waist. No one else in the frame. But someone had taken the photo. Someone else had seen it. That's when I realized I wasn't the only one in the dark. There were cracks. Gaps. I started making notes. Dates. Places. Purchases on our shared card that didn't match the receipts she showed me. The black dress, dry cleaned twice, though she claimed to have worn it only once. Uber charges canceled before being completed. Receipts from a boutique in a different city. The picture was sharpening. But the mistake, her real mistake, was that voicemail. Because now I had a voice. A voice I could replay. A confession not meant for me. And I had a name. Martin Hale. He didn't know me. Not yet. But I knew him. The next morning, I sent him a text from a new number. No greeting. Just a screenshot of the voicemail transcription. And below it, you dialed the wrong number. No reply. Not for hours. Then, at 11:42 a.m., a single message. Who is this? I didn't answer. I wanted him to sit with it. To feel what I felt. To wonder. I watched her that night like I was watching a stranger study for a part. She wore her homebody uniform, sweats, no makeup, chipped nail polish, and played it so well. But she was tense. I saw it in the way she closed the blinds before dinner. The way she checked her phone more often, turning it slightly away from me. The way she flinched when a notification pinged and she thought I wasn't looking. She knew something was coming, but she didn't know when or how. And that's when it hit me. She wasn't sorry. She was scared. There's a difference. And I planned to use it. I didn't go to his office to start a fight. I went to see what kind of man he really was. The building sat on the north end of the city, all smoked glass and brushed metal, pretending not to care how expensive it looked. I parked on a side street and waited until I saw him go in. No rush. No nerves. Just patience. At 8:14 a.m., he swiped into the glass doors with a badge clipped to his blazer pocket. He didn't look around. He didn't hesitate. He looked like a man who'd slept well. That pissed me off more than anything. Inside, the receptionist smiled at me when I asked for Martin Hale. Do you have an appointment? No, I said, but I'm an old friend. Just in town briefly. Thought I'd surprise him. The kind of lie that's too casual to question. She told me to wait. I did. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. And then he came out. I saw the recognition hit him like a slap. He didn't say my name. He didn't even greet me. just stopped mid-step and stared, his jaw twitching once before he smiled. Tight, corporate. "Hey," he said, voice quiet. "Can I help you?" I stood up, extended a hand. "You already have." We shook. His palm was cold. We walked to a private lounge off the main corridor. Neutral furniture. Tall windows. The kind of space meant to impress clients, but never used for anything real. He sat stiffly across from me, legs crossed, hands folded like he was already planning his exit. "What do you want?" he asked. I leaned forward. "You're sleeping with my wife." His eyes didn't flinch. I'll give him that. But his throat did a thing. A reflex. Subtle, but there. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said, and it was almost believable. But I brought proof. I pulled out my phone, played 5 seconds of the voicemail, just enough to hear her say back in trance again, and "I miss you." Then I stopped it. His mouth parted, but no words came. I stared at him. "You knew she was married." Silence. "Didn't you?" He swallowed hard. "She said it was over." I laughed once sharp. "Yeah, that's her favorite story." He shifted in the chair. His gaze flicked to the door. "What do you want?" There it was. The real question. Not "what are you doing here?" Not "how could this happen?" Just "what do you want?" I stood. Walked to the window. "She's good at it, you know. Making people believe she's something she's not." He said nothing. I thought maybe you should know who you're dealing with. Maybe you're just a guy caught up in something he doesn't understand. But then I remembered. You're not dumb, Martin. You're just selfish. Still no response. His silence felt like a wall. I turned back to him. "So here's what I want." "Nothing." His eyes narrowed. "I'm not going to fight for her," I said. "I'm not going to beg or plead or chase." He looked confused now. Guarded. I smiled, the kind you use before pulling a trigger. "But I'm going to watch. I'm going to be the shadow at the edge of every room she walks into. Every lie she tells you. You'll wonder, is this the time she slips again? Is she still calling him? Is he still listening?" He looked sick. I let that hang for a moment. Then I leaned in. "And when she turns on you, because she will, when she tells you you're suffocating her, when she suddenly needs space, when she starts locking her phone at night, just remember this moment." His voice was thin when it finally came. "You think that's going to scare me?" "No," I said. "That's going to haunt you." I walked out before he could answer. As I drove home, I didn't feel better. But I did feel clearer. She was never coming back. Not really. Even if her body returned, even if her smile did, the part of her that had loved me was long gone. I'd been living with a ghost. That night, she asked if I wanted to go away for the weekend. Said she felt like we needed a break. Some time alone. I said sure. She smiled, relieved. Maybe even proud of herself. As she packed a bag in the bedroom, I looked at her the way you look at a stranger who wears your clothes. And that's when I saw it. The photo frame on the nightstand. The one from our second anniversary. Napa Valley. Her red dress, my hand on her waist. But it had changed. She'd swapped it out. Now it was just her. Same vineyard. Know me. She hadn't said anything. Hadn't asked. She just erased me. One frame at a time. I didn't say a word. I let her pack. We drove to the lake house Friday afternoon. She laughed at a podcast on the way. Offered me sips of her drink. Tapped my hand at red lights like we were still us. I played along. Because something had shifted again. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about clarity. About closure. The kind you don't ask for. The kind you take. I had one more card to play. And I planned to play it that night. We arrived just before dusk. The lake was glass, still and dark. Her favorite time. She stepped out of the car and took a deep breath like the air here was cleaner, purer. It wasn't. But she needed it to be. She slipped her sunglasses into her hair and smiled at me. This was a good idea. I nodded and unlocked the door. The place hadn't changed. Same pinewood floors, same driftwood decor, same musty smell from being locked up too long. We used to call it our escape. Now it felt like a set built for a marriage that didn't exist anymore. I lit a fire. She poured wine. Red, of course. Always red. She put on music. Low, jazzy, meaningless. The kind of background noise you choose when silence feels dangerous. We sat on the couch. She curled up beside me, resting her head on my shoulder like old times. I let her. "Are you okay?" she asked, fingers tracing circles on my thigh. "Why wouldn't I be?" She hesitated, then smiled. "I don't know. You've just been distant." I almost laughed. Instead, I turned to her. "I've just been thinking." "About what?" "About us. About what we are now." She sat up slightly. "I know we've drifted, but we can fix it. That's why I wanted to come here. Get away from the noise." I nodded. "And Martin." The name landed like a stone between us. Her smile froze. "I'm sorry," she said. "Martin Hale," I repeated. "Tall, smug. Likes curtain booths." Whispered voicemails. Back entrances. Silence. I watched her face as it broke, not all at once, but in pieces. The twitch of her mouth. The way her eyes darted toward the fireplace, as if the flames might offer a new script. "I don't know what you're—" "Don't," I said, sharper than I meant. She blinked, wide-eyed now. The performance faltering. "Don't lie. Not here. Not now." She opened her mouth. Closed it. Swallowed. Then, "How long have you known?" "Long enough." She stared at me like she was recalibrating the timeline, trying to rewrite the months, trying to guess how much I'd seen and how much she could still spin. "He means nothing," she said finally. "He means everything," I said. "Because you picked him." Again and again. "You picked him over me, over this, over us." Her voice dropped. "I didn't pick." "You did," I snapped. "When you made the list. When you booked the booth. When you slipped the key card into your pocket like it was lipstick." She looked at her hands. "You could have told me," I said. "I would have hated it. I would have fallen apart. But at least it would have been real." Tears welled up. I didn't believe them. "I didn't want to hurt you," she said. I stared at her. "You didn't want to interrupt me." She flinched. I stood and walked to the window. The lake was black now. Still. A mirror. "You didn't just cheat," I said, quietly. "You erased me. Bit by bit. Swapped out our memories for placeholders. You made new versions of everything." She was crying now. No sobs. Just quiet weeping, like a child who knows they've been caught but doesn't know what happens next. I let the silence stretch. Then I sat down across from her, the fire casting long shadows between us. "I met him," I said. Her head jerked up. I looked him in the eye, shook his hand, told him what was coming. She looked terrified. "What did you do?" "Nothing. Yet." She stood, suddenly furious. "You had no right." "I had every right," I said, standing too. "I was your husband. I am your husband. And you were still lying to my face every night." "You think I wanted this?" she shouted. "You think I planned to ruin everything?" "Yes," I said, voice steady. "I think you didn't care if it got ruined." She sat back down, breathing hard. I watched her, really watched her, and felt something shift in me again. The rage had burned through. What was left wasn't anger. It was clarity. Cold. Sharp. Absolute. "I brought you here," I said, "so you'd know that I'm done." Her eyes widened. "I'm filing next week. I've already spoken to someone." She shook her head, slowly, like denial could reverse time. "No." "Yes. But we can fix it," she whispered. "No," I said. "You can't fix what you dismantled one piece at a time," while smiling at me from across the dinner table. Her voice cracked. "You're just going to leave me?" I walked to the bedroom, pulled a small duffel from the closet, and tossed it on the couch. "I'm leaving tonight. You can stay here as long as you want." She stared at the bag like it might explode. "This was never about revenge," I said. "It was about truth. And now we're both looking at it." She didn't follow me to the door. Didn't beg. Didn't explain. Just sat there, hands on her knees, silent. I drove home in the dark, the road curving like a long thread I was finally cutting. When I walked in, the house felt different. Still empty, but not haunted. There was peace in that, in knowing it was mine now. Alone, but real. I waited for the first message. It didn't take long. She texted before sunrise. "Can we please talk?" I didn't answer. 2 hours later. I didn't mean for it to happen. I was lonely too. That one stung, the way cowards rebrand betrayal as symmetry. By noon, she called. I let it ring. And again that night. I watched the screen light up from across the room. Her name glowing like an emergency I no longer had to attend to. I didn't block her. Not yet. I wanted her to feel the weight of the unanswered. I listened to her voicemail in the quiet. I didn't think you'd really walk away. I thought maybe you'd yell, break something, cheat too. But this silence, it's worse. That much was true. Silence is sharper than shouting. It doesn't give you a role to play. It leaves you exposed, alone with your choices. She kept sending little attempts, breadcrumbs dressed as kindness, a shared photo from Napa, a note, "Remember this day?" A link to a playlist she made years ago, renamed. For us, still. Each message like a stone dropped into a dry well. And then one night, Martin left. Said I lied to him too. Said I used him. Maybe I did. I read that one twice. Not out of pity. Out of certainty. He saw her too now. Saw what I saw. Not all at once. It never happens that way. It's incremental. Like a room slowly filling with smoke. You tell yourself it's nothing until your lungs start to burn. That's what she did to both of us. I got a letter a week later. Postmarked, handwritten, sealed with the kind of care that arrives too late. 3 pages of apologies, half confessions, half nostalgia. She called me her best friend. That's what betrayal does. It reframes love as convenience. I didn't reply. I burned the letter. No drama. No final confrontation. Just flame and silence. I heard through a mutual friend that she moved out of the city. Something about starting fresh. A rental near the coast. She teaches yoga now, apparently. Heard she doesn't drink red wine anymore. The house is quiet these days. I kept it. Repainted the bedroom. Got rid of the old photos. Not out of rage. Out of realism. You don't keep portraits of people who no longer exist. Sometimes I still find traces, a ring of candle wax on the windowsill, the faint scent of her perfume in an old scarf I never knew she wore. But mostly, the ghosts are gone. I sleep better. I wake easier. There's peace and truth, even when it costs you everything. And that voicemail, the one she left for him that ended up on my phone, I still have it. Not because I need it, but because every so often, I need to remember that quiet kind of knife. The one that sounds like a woman whispering to someone she thinks is safe. Saying, "I miss you," and meaning someone else, but calling you by mistake. Thanks for watching. If this story pulled you in, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the next confession. Until next time, take care and watch who you trust.